welcome to another episode of The Insider's Guide to Custom Homes. I'm your host, Rick Bell, and today we're diving into one of my favorite parts of the custom home process, interior design, and how the right designer can completely transform a space. Joining me today is someone I've had the privilege of working with for years, Jennifer Fitzpatrick, the founder and principal of Studio J & Co. Studio J & Co. is an award-winning boutique design firm with offices in Miami and New York. They specialize in luxury residential, restaurant, and hospitality projects, and they're known for creating spaces that are as functional as they are beautiful, blending the sophistication and durability of hospitality design with the warmth and personality of residential living. Jennifer's story is remarkable. She started her firm just about 6 years ago, completely on her own, and has grown into a thriving studio of 10 incredibly talented team members. Her firm's energy and her positive attitude, along with her collaborative approach with both clients and builders, make her a standout in the industry. And one of the things that really sets Jennifer apart is her ability to bring ideas to life visually. Her photorealistic renderings give clients a true sense of what their finished home will look like, long before construction even starts. Jennifer, it's great to have you here. Welcome to the Insider's Guide to Custom Homes.
Thanks so much for having me, Rick.
My pleasure. So let's just talk a little bit about the origins and the growth of Studio J & Co. What was your inspiration and what was your vision?
So I've always wanted to be an interior designer since I was really little, since about age 9. And my parents were actually buying a home, they were renovating a home, and I sat in on their interior designer meetings, and I absolutely loved it from that moment. And I went on and studied interior design at Cornell, and then worked for a more corporate firm that was doing more like large scale hospitality projects, and then as well as a boutique firm, which I stayed on for longer. And between the two, I really learned a lot about the technical side of things, as well as the more abstract and conceptual side of both sides of interior design, and also a mix of hospitality and residential. And between the two, I really was inspired, and it was always a goal of mine to have my own firm. And so once my husband and I moved down to Miami, we really kickstarted and really ended up doing a lot of residential because it was right around the time that COVID was happening. And
so right around 2020.
Yes, right around 2020. So, which in Florida was honestly good because
almost
people
business
were
as
moving
usual.
down here.
Yes, I get it. We were essential workers, I think, at that time.
Exactly. So residential was very essential at the time. And so we really started working on a lot of residential projects, and business started booming very quickly. So
when you first started, you were doing everything yourself. And that's kind of when we first met. So what did those early days look like to you when you got started? It's a lot different than you are today. So what was your routine? How did you kind of manage your workload since you were all by yourself at that time?
So the solo element of it honestly didn't last very long because I realized how important it really is to have a team behind you, especially for interior design. There's so many elements to the design process. There's so much to it. There's so many programs to know, so much coordination that gets involved. And so from the beginning, yes, I was solo, but I had a few people behind the scenes. So
well, I mean, it's really important to have a team, and it's sometimes hard to build a team from scratch. I mean, without really understanding who the key players are, what the roles are, and how they're going to fit in with your firm.
Absolutely.
So, what were kind of the pivotal moments that helped you build your positive creative culture?
I would say, from that solo element and where I first started to the team collaboration side of things, it really made me grow and made me learn that I needed to almost pivot my role to be more of an entrepreneur and to be the leader that's overseeing a lot of these different designers. And we pulled in various designers from kind of all walks of life. We had more on the rendering side, a little more.
Were these subcontractors or were they actually working for you directly at that time?
More so contractors.
So you would kind of give them an idea, a vision of what you want, sketch it up and say, take this and kind of render it. Because I've done the rendering process before, and it's a process. I mean, you basically have all the colors and the accessories, and it's a lot of work.
It's a lot. Absolutely. But that's also where the team element of it is so important, because you are having someone procuring all these elements and making sure the specs will actually fit and scale into the space and work well. And then they're implementing that into a rendering, or they're working with the renderer to actually make that come to life. And then it's putting it into technical drawings and actually making it happen. And then it's the site implementation.
Right, and I noticed a lot of your drawings, which is really great, is when they're built, they look a lot like the original renderings. Because some artist renderings they look great, but then you start building the structure, and it's nothing like what you saw on the visual. So for our clients and for all your clients, and a lot of them are mutual, it's kind of rewarding at the end, I think, to say, here was your drawing. Made a couple little tweaks based on our conversations, but essentially it's what we had talked about. We shared the vision, and it actually came out that way.
Exactly. And honestly, we really pat ourselves on the back for that, because we're very, very proud to really show actuals as much as we can when we do these renderings.
So you actually say, I have this particular piece of furniture, and I'm putting it in the render.
We build it, we put it in, we scale it in, we make sure it's going to work. And we're actually implementing those elements.
So is there like a catalog out there that actually has these 3D drawings, or do you have to create the furniture with your renderers?
It depends. Certain elements we have to build, especially because we're pulling in some more unique pieces for a lot of really high-end residential clients. So we are having to build them from scratch.
Yeah, I've done this before years ago. We actually did a video, and it was a little more cartoonish than it is today, but it was pretty good for the first day. This was about 8 years ago. And we had to build every piece of furniture. It was just a lot of work.
It's a lot. I mean, there's a lot that goes into the interior design process, honestly. And even with AI that's coming through with, on the forefront of all this technology, we're always trying to stay current, obviously, with AI and use it as much as we possibly can. But there's also the element of human factor and making sure that there's actually thought and realism behind it as well.
Yeah, AI is coming a long way, but it's not quite there yet.
And no, it's not.
You can't just tell AI to draw this room with this piece of furniture.
You can't just say design it. You still need a designer, everybody.
Still need a designer. That's good to know. Your job is secure. It's funny, I was talking to someone today, and they were discussing how this person's son's job is at risk because it was in the banking industry, and this job can be outsourced to AI. And then I'm saying, but construction and some certain trades, it's very hard. These are non-fungible things, and we need a superintendent in the field. Someone actually has to think and create the design. I'm sure there's certain aspects over time that will evolve, but you still need the creative part, I think.
Exactly. And the realism, because we're making it come to life, on site. And so that's the important element there too.
For sure. So now that you've kind of built a substantial team over the past, 6 years, what's the most rewarding part of watching your team grow and the collaboration between your team members?
It's so interesting because we started around COVID. We started off very remote. Everybody was remote. I mean, we had someone in Hawaii, we had someone in New York, someone in, multiple people in South Florida, someone in Dallas. We had people a little bit all over. And so in order to really keep a collaborative network or, just in general, a team environment, we wanted to make sure that, especially with it being remote, that we all kept in touch. We all are meeting at certain times of year, going to trade shows, things like that. And so, I constantly, especially because we're remote, I constantly have individual check-ins with each person, making sure that everybody is working on exactly what they want to be working on. Sometimes we'll pivot what they're working on if they're getting a little overwhelmed or if it's not the right fit for them. Because, making sure that what they're working on, they have to be happy in order to make the project successful.
So of the team members you have now, you mentioned remote. What percentage is remote? I mean, are half your members remote? Because I've met a lot of your people. They come into our office, they meet with our clients. So how do you kind of balance the remote with the physical in person?
Yes, it's definitely been interesting. When the team was a bit more spread out across the US, it was definitely more challenging, but that was also COVID time, so we weren't really traveling as much.
Everyone was Zooming and
Exactly.
we were learning how to work remotely. Sure, that was a
Exactly.
different time, but here we are, fast
Yes.
forward 5 years.
So
How's it
now
work?
we're basically 50-50 in South Florida and in New York now. And so we were able to really bring on some more New York projects because of that, which has been really awesome. And so
Are these commercial or are these residential, or is it kind of a mix?
Kind of a mix. It depends. It's residential, it's restaurants, it's hospitality. And between the two, I mean, we have New York designers working on Florida projects and Florida designers working on New York projects. So it just kind of depends on what their role is too.
So how do you balance this level of sophistication with residential warmth, and how do you achieve that balance with the commercial side when you get into the restaurants? I mean, they're not quite the same product.
Not quite the same product, but honestly, there's bits and pieces that you take from each element. And honestly, I would say I'm a pretty well-traveled person. I've been and stayed in a lot of high-end hotels and resorts around the world. And so from that, and also my background in hospitality, I've learned and gathered a few elements from the hospitality world that really blends with residential. One being the wow factor, the moment when you walk into a hotel lobby and you see a jungle in the distance and it's this abstract or super modern architecture and you're letting the nature speak to itself. Or on an emotional level, you're going to this place, you're going to this hotel to really feel connected, feel like you can really be on vacation mode and be in your happy place. And that's another element that's really important to include in a residence.
So when you first start the design process, what is the process from your first meeting to the time you actually do the final reveal when they come in and you show them these beautiful drawings? How do you kind of get to that point? And we'll talk about how you go from there to the actual product that's in place. But how do you start with a client and get to the point where you can show them, present to them these renderings that kind of match their vision? What is your process?
So number one, we are listeners. That is like the number one element of an interior designer. We're there for the client. We're also psychologists sometimes, but that can
that's part of our job.
So we very much are there to listen, to really understand what their wants and needs are, whether it be commercial, whether it be residential, but especially for residential. We're building a home, and like I said, with the hospitality side of things, we're making sure that materials that are selected are durable and will sustain 4 little boys running around, trailing dirt into the house. And we want, we want the client to feel like they're not living in a museum. They're living in a home that they can really live in. And so to answer your question, getting, understanding that as their lifestyle as the concept and really understanding their
So do you sit down and interview them basically and say, hey, let's just talk about how you like to live and what your taste is. Do you start showing them inspirational photographs? How do you kind of get to that point where you merge their thoughts into a physical drawing? So
yes.
What's the process of that? Because it's tricky. I mean, because everybody has a different vision, and you we've been here before, the architects, and they show them this beautiful drawing, but it's nothing like they had thought about. So then you go back to square one.
Exactly. Well, and I mean, we definitely start with inspiration imagery. Sometimes the clients will send us inspiration. And if we're, thinking it's not necessarily the right fit, we'll present them some alternate options. And then a lot of the time they fall in love with it. So because we almost are sensing what they actually want.
So you start with like a sketch and kind of before you go full bore renderings and just say, are we on the right track?
Yeah, we're blending more of inspiration imagery with the layout, and we're making sure that we're understanding both and that they're meeting the needs of what their functionality is. And then we're implementing it into actual specs. We're showing them actual materials, we're showing them actual plumbing fixtures, appliances, all of that, and then we're implementing those into the renderings.
So you're starting with, process that I've seen before. You start with a general floor plan,
yes,
furniture layout, and you got to kind of take that to the next level of, okay, here's kind of the couch, but here's 3 different couches. Is that kind of the process?
Yes. And honestly, it's important to discuss those things early on because that'll affect the lighting layout, which is then, obviously implemented earlier on than actually selecting the furniture. So it's important to really get to know the client about those elements first in order to plan and avoid change orders later, which I know is a hot topic for you.
Well, change orders are, People always think change orders are bad. They're not always bad. I mean, a lot of our change orders have to do with accommodating a client for an idea they had, and they want to implement something. On one of the residences we did here at Landmark, we had an owner that we were collaborating together with, and when the front elevation was built, they looked at it and they said, that's not quite what we were thinking about. And we actually had to backtrack with the architect and renderings and taking things apart and putting them back together. But this is something that the owner understood. They were on board. They understood the cost. It's all transparent. And they made the ultimate decision whether to go forward with it or not. But at the end of the day, they got what they wanted.
Yes.
So I imagine the process is the same with you. You know, there might be a change order, but it's to the benefit of the client.
Exactly. And a lot of these projects too end up lasting a few years, as a duration. So they end up seeing new inspirations, seeing new trends. Sure,
there's always something new, chandeliers.
Exactly, or new materials coming out that they're finding. And so sometimes a change order is better because then the home will be more current, more up to date to the specs that are around and trending.
Yeah, well, that's important to keep their vision in line with what they want, but what they can afford, what you can actually implement. Because a lot of times here's a picture of this, and that's not really part of the vision we discussed. That might require moving a few other things around.
Exactly. So we have to adjust and we have to be flexible, and that's what we're here for too. So.
So what's your secret to keeping everything cohesive from the concept board to the final styling, and in the collaboration with your builders and clients? How do you keep it all together?
It's interesting because, like I said, things definitely change from start to finish, but we do tend to implement, like you said, the rendering to reality, and that final product really does look like the renderings. And so we definitely take into consideration the realistic elements behind the renderings by doing the technical drawings. We're there on site, we're doing the site visits with the builder directly, and we're working through all the shop drawings, making sure that it's.
So explain a little bit about technical drawings and shop drawings for our listeners, because we don't all know and work in the field in the industry how this works. So what is a technical drawing? What is a shop drawing? How does it relate to the job site?
Essentially, from a rendering that is approved by a client, we're then putting it into a 2D drawing, like elevations. So within that 4-walled room, we're literally creating a 2D drawing of each wall. We're showing the different heights of sconces, of wall paneling, of all different elements and materials are tagged within that elevation. And we're coming up with a complete set of drawings that will be for the builder to essentially work from. It's implementing all the lighting. Sometimes we end up coordinating with the HVAC to make sure there isn't a linear diffuser interfering with a light fixture.
There's a lot of coordination.
It's a lot of coordination. So, we're working on a lot of the technical elements, any sort of appliance or equipment or plumbing fixture that has electrical and plumbing, we're making sure all of those elements
So these have pretty much most of the general dimensions on them, because I know once we have your technical drawings, we actually typically submit them to, say it's the cabinet company. Yes. We ask them to do the physical shop drawings, and then they start really taking it down to the millimeter.
Exactly. So we take it down to we take it down to like the 1/2 inch, and they take it to the millimeter. So
but at least they have something to go by, a track to run on. So when they produce it, they know where all the drawers are going to go, where all the doors go. Is it glass? Is it does it have any kind of mullions inside the glass? Is the interior finished? Is it not finished? So.
Yep.
Between the renderings and your technical drawings, I think is super helpful for our craftspeople, our tradesmen, to build the actual physical product. When we talk about flooring, we talk about patterns and how they go on the floor and where the inserts go. That's all part of your drawings, and you show layouts and how the transitions happen. Yep. So all these different elements, they're key, and I think it's really important for people to understand, because we hear this a lot. I don't need an interior designer. I understand color. I know where I'm going to get my furniture from. But we try to explain to our clients that, the interior designer's job is not just to select furniture or pick colors.
Nope. It is way more than fluffing pillows, let me tell you.
It's absolutely more.
I'm a licensed interior designer in New York and Florida. And so I took my NCIDQ tests, and we're very, very much more on the spectrum of interior architecture. And so that's why we do get so technical, because we make sure that everything is really being coordinated and pulled together. Because yes, when a client does select a couple things and some finishes, and they, and the space is
So the difference
pulled
between
together.
I am a interior decorator and an interior designer is substantial.
Yes.
So
yes.
maybe you can explain again to our listeners, what is the difference between a interior designer and a decorator? And I'm not trying to blast decorators, and they have a function,
not at all.
and they can help on smaller jobs, I think. But
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the distinction.
Yes. What I would say is an interior decorator focuses more on the loose furnishings and the elements that will be going with the owner to the next home. And so those elements, may be more thoughtful as for what's functioning in the moment, sort of thing.
Right.
And so those things can be sort of temporarily swapped out, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas an interior designer is actually specifying those elements, we're scaling those in, making sure they coordinate with floor outlets, for example, to make sure there's power for that floor lamp. Whereas they're kind of working within the extents of the room that's already built. And we're building around.
Again, it comes back to the technical drawings, and
it goes back to the technical.
And the actual real life. I mean, we talk about tile and layouts, and you can select a tile, but how does it go on the wall? Exactly. How does the pattern work? Where are the cuts? How do the shelves work? How big is a shelf? How deep is a shelf? Does the niche have a light in it? What are the technical specs for it? All these things. A decorator can say, "Hey, just put it in the wall, and we'll come by and look at it, and we'll measure it out with. I'll bring my bottle of shampoo." Well, that might be a good idea. I think it's good to have scale drawings and something for us as builders and our craftspeople to have when they're pricing it out, and so everybody is on the same page. And we actually share drawings today. We use a QR code system now. We'll take your drawings. We'll have a QR code, so you scan it. The plans actually populate into your device, whether it's an iPad or a phone or whatever you use while you're walking around the home. And those technical drawings are super important we used to hang them on the wall.
Right.
We tape them to the wall. We still kind of do that sometimes, but the tile guy, when he can pull up his iPhone or his iPad, and he goes, I get this, and you zoom in, I get it.
Exactly.
So it makes a big difference.
I mean, it's so important because there are some very detail-oriented clients as well that want to see, yes, they approved this rendering, but it's a matter of, is the tile layout exactly what we showed them? And sometimes we have to meet them on site to really make sure that they really do like that layout because it could be a little bit different on. So
there are field adjustments that sometimes have to be made because you drew it on a piece of paper, you put it on, they go,
yes.
Is there a different pattern we can use? Oh, sure, we can use a running bond, or we can stagger it, or there are different methods, or do a more ashlar thing with big pieces down here, small pieces there, or mix it all together. So and it's hard for a client, I think, to visualize sometime until they actually have those pieces of material physically in person on the job site.
Yes.
So how often do you typically meet clients? What is your routine when the house starts construction? How often do you discuss what's going on with the project, and when the field is actually, the house is dried in, the roof is on basically, and the interior wall framing is going in? How often do you meet with the clients?
Yeah, so basically we try and start as soon as possible. As soon as there is a layout, we try and get involved from day one, if possible. So then while the builder is building the shell and putting the windows in and the roof and all of those elements, we're designing all of these spaces so that by the time the shell is ready to go, ready to receive tile, things like that, it's all designed, and then we're ready to give them the drawings. So as soon as possible is really the ideal scenario when we
So when does a designer come into the picture? So and I kind of know the answer, but again, for our listeners, we'll start with a client, and they'll kind of generally talk about their project, and we start talking, and we always talk about design to budget. Our first person on board typically is the architect, and we'll start talking about scale and massing and general feel. Is it modern? Is it transitional? Is it contemporary? Is it more classical or whatever? There's a million different styles. Yeah. But the architect only can take it so far, and a lot of times they'll do a furniture layout, but might not be quite the same. So when is, in your mind, the ideal time for you to kind of enter yourself into the process?
Definitely as soon as there is a general layout. and a general approval
Like
of
a
square
floor plan
footage, a general
and
floor plan
right.
with square footage that's roughly where the client wants to be, we like to get involved right away, because there may be a wall that needs to shift here or there to accommodate a bigger sofa for their 4 kids, or et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of elements that you may not think will affect the actual shell and the structure of the layout.
So what's the most important thing clients should know before starting a major custom home project? What is the benefit of bringing you on board early? How do you explain that to them? I mean, I can recommend them and I can tell them all day long, we need this team. But when I say, hey, just talk to Jennifer and she can explain to you why it's important you're on, what's your answer to them?
Again, I would say it really goes back to getting to know the client and listening to what their wants and needs are, because an architect may have a specific recipe that they use where the mudroom goes next to the garage and then the garage goes next to this room and then that room and that room. Whereas this family may want to have the mudroom in a different location or a certain.
So we want to keep them going backwards.
Exactly. We want to keep them going backwards. So we want to hear all of those elements and really understand what their needs are. Maybe they need 2 mudrooms, one at one end of the house and one at the other because it's such a huge house. So we want to understand what their actual needs are.
Early on in the process.
Early on.
Right. We're dealing with the architect and they're drawing this beautiful house, and then you go back and say, they really need a second laundry room upstairs, and now we have to move things around. It's probably better to have those details maybe ironed out a little bit more. And I'm not trying to knock architects; they're very good at what they do. But sometimes you might be able to pull a little bit more out of the final use that owner's going to need in that house.
Exactly.
So we can incorporate it early on, and again, keep from going backwards, making sure that all the parts and pieces are in place early on. Again, coming back to design to budget, our budget from our side is to make sure that they can afford what we design. And the whole cohesive part of that team is, well, what do you really want? Because sometimes the architect may draw it and not have some of these elements in, and you're saying, oh, the home theater was really not a home theater. It was a multi-purpose game room, which requires these steps down to it, but we have this upper area and whatever or these walls that have to close off, which may add some additional cost to the project. And it's good to know that early on. So I think that input from you as a designer to pull some of these elements out of the client is kind of critical.
Exactly. I mean, one other thing I would say too is, like, our very first project that we worked on together was a spec house that went on the market.
Model.
Exactly, the Biscayne model. It's a classic. The very first few meetings were not just the architect. I mean, there wasn't an owner per se yet, but I mean, you were essentially building the home. But it was the architect, it was the builder, and it was us, the designer, as well as the real estate agent. So all of these parties together, I feel like, had such significant input as to what would make this such a success from all of these perspectives.
Yeah, especially on a spec house, because you're building a house that's supposed to appeal to, it's the 80-20 rule. We want to appeal to 80% of the market. We're not going to hit every button, but we don't want to be on the 20% side of that equation. I made the mistake one time. We built this beautiful house. I thought it was beautiful. It was Key West style, had the metal roof, all that beautiful siding and these gorgeous wooden columns with details, fish tanks inside, beautiful aquariums and blues and greens. And I thought you just kick off your flip-flops and you'd be at home. And that house sat for about a year and a half until I found that guy that wanted to kick his flip-flops off.
Right.
So trying to get those elements in there that do appeal to that 80% is key. And I think you hit a part of that formula, not just you as the interior designer, us as the builder and the architect, but the sales guy, that guy that really knows the market, really has to be involved early. So he's kind of playing the client to some extent.
Absolutely.
So that was a fun project, and we actually did really well with it. And we got some wonderful owners in there, and there were some modifications, of course, and we dealt with it. But at the end of the day, the house was magnificent.
Incredible.
If anything was too successful, we wanted so many people that wanted to repeat that house. It's like, but we don't repeat styles, but we'll modify it some to make it your own. So that was a bit of a challenge, but it was a great home.
It was too good. It was just too good.
So when you bring a client on board, how do you make sure they enjoy the process instead of being overwhelmed by it? Because we're talking about a lot of decisions to be made in a short period of time.
Yes. We keep it interesting. we're in the business of showing things visually and actually touching elements and materials. And so we try and change it up every meeting. We don't just have a Zoom call. We don't just have a site visit. We take them to showrooms. We have them actually try out a faucet and make sure they like the feel of it and sit
Do they
in the
like shopping?
sofa.
Do they like going out and actually
Most,
physically touching
most,
these?
yeah.
Well, because
Yeah.
it's not just it's the faucets, it's the appliances, it's cabinets and handles. I mean, there are a lot of tile,
There's a lot of
flooring, wood,
elements.
right.
So it's really refreshing when it's a different type of a meeting. And so I think some of them get really excited.
These are field trips.
Yeah, it's a field trip. Exactly. Why not? Who wouldn't want to?
I love it. I'm like a kid in a
I
candy
do
store when I
too.
get to do this.
I
So,
know. Me
unfortunately,
too.
it's only in a spec house or something I'm doing for my own personal property. But when you see some of these elements, and everything's always new. We go to the National Association of Home Builders show. It's typically in Vegas. This year's going to be in Orlando. And the products they have there. I don't know if you've been before, but
I haven't been to that.
You
show,
should go to
but-
the Orlando one this year.
Yeah.
I think it's in February, and you'll be amazed. I mean, there's thousands of vendors and products, and it's just, I don't want to say overwhelming, but it's gratifying because you can say what's the newest and latest trend. Not so much in the interior design and furnishing side, but the different products. These different pergolas that come out now. Now they become commonplace where you can hit a button and the fins in the pergola change and they create shade or block you from the rain that comes through. You can open them back up again. That's just one example of some of these great products you can find at a builder show. But getting back to the shopping aspect of it, they're always coming up with new plumbing fixtures. And especially when you go to the show, you'll see Kohler has this amazing display and all the latest and greatest of what they have. And products from, again, different cabinet makers, countertops, veneers, porcelain's come a long way in the past few years.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing product. What's your position on porcelain versus...
It's tricky. It's very tricky.
Because we do have some clients that say, I want to have the natural stone. And you're like, but the porcelain for this particular product will be a lot easier to maintain. It goes down more uniform. The price point goes down better. So where do you stand in that?
Oof, it's a tricky one. I think it really depends on the application. And also it's mixing. We kind of call it the Zara Chanel method, where we're mixing a little bit of porcelain with some natural stone, with some, wood veneer, and then a little bit of laminate. So we're mixing a lot of these materials because as you see it as a whole, it looks incredible. And you never really know.
So you want the durability in some parts of it, but you want that touch when it's not like touching natural wood, and especially on cabinetry.
Exactly.
I have this beautiful cabinet we put in our master bedroom, and it was just as most magnificent walnut, and it's all grain matched all the way through the different drawers. And I look at it and it's floating. It has a big chunky top to it. And every time I see it, I get a smile on my face. Yeah. Because if this was a veneer or just a melamine, that was easy, but it doesn't have the same feel.
Not at all. So for things like that, where it's really going to be an impactful element, like you're actually displaying a slab or making a really awesome fireplace, and that's your wow moment when you first walk in, definitely have that be a natural element as much as you can. Obviously budget comes in and sometimes those elements are out of reach. And so sometimes
budget definitely plays a part when you get to natural products.
Yeah. But certain porcelains can definitely take that place as well. So I think it just really depends on the application. But again, we do like to mix because we want to keep it a realistic budget for our client too, and really get the look and functionality and maintenance that they need to.
Right. So we talk a lot about design to budget on the construction side. Do you do something similar? Do you talk to the clients up front about where do you realistically want to be at the end of this thing by the time you finish with the builder, and then you as far as furnishings and accessories, how do you approach that conversation?
Kind of unfortunately, we do furniture at the end of the project, so.
But you must have a general idea, because it's like landscaping. It's always, you get 3 hardy shrubs because there's no money left for landscaping. So we always try to put a significant enough in the budget to handle that type of thing.
And actually, we start to source a lot of the furniture, and we start to source the lighting fixtures and all the wall coverings and things like that are decorative, but they're part of the architecture closer to while the home is being constructed. So we tend to pull together budgets for those 2 elements and anything that's within the architecture first, and then we'll start to pull together more of a furniture budget. Once we're setting up the furniture layout, and so we're able to really use that as a template to go through room by room and identify all the pieces of furniture that they're looking to include within the home. So we can come up with different tiers of like, where do you like to, is it more West Elm Crate and Barrel, Restoration Hardware,
Right.
or are we going
Or
a
custom.
little more fully high-end custom, or is it a mix? And
I think you find that with a lot of clients because
Yeah.
some areas are super important.
exactly.
Maybe secondary bedrooms aren't so much, or
Yes.
guest bedroom, but that master's always important. The family room is always something special. The wow factor when you walk into a beautiful living room. So those are kind of the key areas we always see.
Exactly.
And then of course the kitchen, master bedroom, yes, master bathroom, super important. So yeah.
So again, we mix. Where it's the, porcelain and the natural stone, we're definitely mixing between, an ultra custom piece of furniture with something that's a little more off the shelf of a side table or something. And so it just,
at the end of the day, I've seen your
at the end
projects.
of the day, it works.
They do work.
It works.
They really are beautiful. So switching gears a little bit to the commercial side, you've been involved with several projects like Pura Vida Miami. You're currently working with another client on the national rollout of their commercial products. I know we can't talk about some of this because it's confidential, but
Yeah.
One other quick thing is I guess you won recently the Hospitality Design Gold Key Award. First of all, what did that mean to your team?
Yes.
Because that's always big. We always like to be, we want some recognition for the work we do. So
Absolutely. This was our first hotel project that I worked on under our firm. And so our team really all hands on deck on this project. It was a boutique hotel project in Anna Maria Island. It was a little more retro, Palm Springs vibes, very creative, a little more fun.
were you out of your comfort zone in this one?
Yeah, it was out of our comfort zone. But also, I was used to a lot of the hospitality projects being a little more conceptual versus residential, which is a bit more based on functionality and needs. And so when it comes to hospitality, it's definitely more abstract and a bit more out of the box. And so for that project, it was, it really was an honor to have done our first hotel project on our own and to be recognized
with an
within
award.
the first 4 years of starting my firm with an award. So I'm very, very proud and very honored.
So these other projects you're working on, these other commercial projects where they're trying to roll out some of these soon to be national, hopefully national chains.
Yes.
How do you approach matching their vision again with what is going to work in the market? Again, it also
Mhm.
comes back to budget because you can only spend so much on each shop that you're going to open up.
Exactly.
How do you deal with an owner and that kind of developing their vision and then implementing it so the final product meets the needs of the market and it's successful? So
Yes.
how do you start that process?
I mean, it honestly depends on the brand. It's, certain brands, they want high-end quality for all of their locations. Others want certain tiers depending on the location. And so we work with them directly to make sure that we're meeting their needs of what their budget is. And we're working directly with, we'll have a few materials that are consistent throughout all the locations. Like if they really like a flooring material, we're going to make sure that that is working, that is durable.
Well, did they describe kind of the concept of what they're looking for? Hey, look, we want to open this type of shop, and here's how we kind of envision it. How far do these people typically take their idea before you kind of grab a hold of it? Say, I kind of get it. Let me do some renderings for you. Let me sketch up where I'm interpreting your vision.
Yes.
And how do you kind of make that transition from concept to what you can actually build and make it work?
So
That's tricky.
It is tricky.
These concepts are new and haven't been done before.
It is tricky. So some of these concepts, depending on how many they're rolling out, we will come up with like a standard prototypical scheme A, and then we'll come up with another scheme B type of thing. And those will be like the rollout locations. And then we'll come up with a very custom location that's a bit more flagship. And so it just kind of depends on what they're looking for and the quantity that they're looking to roll out. But again, it's looking to what their actual needs are.
So these prototypes are kind of like the experiment. How did it
They're a
really
little
come
bit of
out?
an experiment.
How do we tweak the
Yeah.
next one to make it a little bit more either economical or just make it a better experience for the client coming in?
Exactly. I mean, even when I was doing a lot more hospitality for larger brands, they tend to build a model room, for example, for all the different guest room types. And so there's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, however many. They physically build a model room in the middle of a construction site, and it's fully functioning, fully finished, and It's pretty cool, actually, because you're going in a hard hat and then you're walking into this space and it's like, oh, you can jump right into bed. But
Right. But it gives them the feel and the
it
look
gives
of
them the
exactly
feel, and
what's
then you
gonna
can
be.
really hone in on all of the details and really say, okay, this outlet really should be 5 inches to the left, and
Well, and the lighting too.
oriented
Lighting is super
horizontally.
important, especially in a showroom.
Exactly.
Because that's I know when I go to a jewelry store and they have or a car dealership, the
Oh,
lighting is
yes.
perfect. Because you look at a new car, you go, wow, that's gorgeous. Then you see one out in the light. Is that the same car? So,
Yes, no, 100%. It's so important to really see a lot. I mean, that's the beauty of doing a lot of these large quantity rollouts, is that you're seeing them come to life pretty quickly, more quickly than in residential, for most of the most of the
So
time.
what's your split on your workload? What's residential and what's commercial?
Honestly, I mean, we've been 50-50 pretty much the whole time that we've had this company. We've gotten a bit heavier on residential, specifically high-end residential. And I mean, we're between Miami, between New York. We've worked on projects in Chicago and Malibu, Qatar. I mean,
Wow,
we've
Qatar.
worked
That's a long way to go.
on projects in a lot of.
Actually, I had Perla Lichi on last week and we were talking. She worked in Dubai and Qatar
Yeah.
for 15 years, something like that. And it's a long flight, apparently.
Yes, yes.
It's a distance.
Absolutely. But I mean, we're very used to working remotely too. And so a lot of these elements we're still super efficient in how we work, even from a distance. So, and we make our trips as often as we need to, and dependent on what the client is looking for us to do. If we're kind of representing them as almost an owner's rep, we're there every other week or
Well, that's
whatever.
important. That connection and
Necessary.
just make sure projects are on track and are achieving the goals of your clients is super important.
Yes.
Just shifting gears a little bit into Architectural Digest. You've been put in their pro directory as one of Miami's interior designers that you need to know about. How did that impact your visibility? I'm not sure exactly how that directory works, but how does it work for you?
It's really been an honor to be a part of it. We're recognized among many, many interior designers and really incredible designers in the field. And so we've definitely received a lot of calls and a lot of feedback from potential clients, which has been amazing. And so it just kind of depends. I know a lot of high-end residential potential clients are going to the directory and they're
so people actually do
researching.
pay attention to this directory.
People do. They're
I assume
certainly
your
reaching
website
out.
is on there.
Yep.
What is your website? Just again for our listeners.
www.studiojandco.com.
Easy enough. Very easy enough.
Yes.
So let's talk about design trends. What materials are you most excited about right now? Where are you seeing the focus for the next few years?
I mean, honestly, it's constantly changing, and that's where we certainly, like you said, go to trade shows as much as we possibly can. But right now, we're seeing a lot of, especially in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants modern. Everybody wants the Miami modern look, but we're trying to incorporate an organic mixture within that to help soften it, help warm it up a bit, add some organic shape, curves, arches, things like that to really soften more of a modern look.
So that boxy kind of modern that we've all seen is starting to kind of trend to a little bit of a softer, more livable, not so sterile, I guess. I got to be careful how I say that because architects can get offended by it. But my wife always said, I can't live in that box. But then she sees some of these transitional homes that we do that have a lot of modern elements in them. And you go, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, but then it's also a mix of pulling some transitional elements into there too. Like we're finishing up a home here in Landmark that has, it's a pretty modern home, but then we've added some more modern trim details that add a little bit extra of that touch and that detail, and that make it a little more transitional and soften the look of it as well. Materials can also help with softening these looks as well by adding some wood, maybe doing a matte finish instead of a glossy finish for something that's, ultra luxury or ultra modern. We try and go a little more of the softer tones where possible.
Yeah, and I think that's important because after all, it is a home.
Yes,
it's not
exactly.
a museum, and you have to be comfortable in it, and you don't want too much echo when you walk through there, which can happen on a lot of these all glass type of houses with high ceilings. So I guess that's kind of a challenge also. So I assume you use a lot of, curtains and other fabrics to help kind of soften.
Absolutely. I mean, the layering of various soft materials on top of the architecture is the most important thing to really make it feel lived in, to make it comfortable, to make it your happy place.
So how do you know this? I mean, is it just experience over time to know how much is too much or how much is too little? Because obviously you don't want to finish it and the client walks in and it's, echo.
Actually, you'd be surprised. I mean, maximalism is more in right now with lot of layering.
What's maximalism?
So, for example, you have like a viola marble that has a lot of veining and it's like a deep purple tone. We're mixing it with brushed brass detailing. Then we put like a green wood side table with cerusing next to it with a very textured sofa. But then you have, a white plaster wall that's nearby that's kind of giving you some relief. So it's the element of layering and adding all of these maximal materials, I guess, to really create something unique. And we have certain clients that really do like a lot of look, and we're able to utilize unique trends like this to create an ultra luxury home. So it's the element of combining these looks, combining these textures to make it really impactful, but also we want to make it livable for the owner as well.
Well, that's cool. So just to start wrapping up a little bit, as you expand into New York and the Hamptons and California, Hawaii, Dubai, whatever, throughout the world basically, what's next for Studio J & Co? I mean, what's your vision?
Well, we definitely have a lot in the pipeline, and we're so excited to share everything, hopefully very soon. But we're working on a lot of high-end residential. We're hoping to bring in a couple hotel projects, some wellness, some lifestyle, maybe a few more restaurants, and we're, hitting the ground running and constantly hustling. That's kind of my MO and my goal always, to keep hustling. So yeah, get ready, everybody.
Well, Jennifer, this has been such a great conversation. It's been inspiring to watch your journey from start, Studio J & Co, when it was basically you. And it's amazing how your leadership and your talent and your passion for your team is just doing a great job of redefining luxury design in South Florida and beyond. And your creativity, your leadership, collaboration, your spirit really shine through in every project you touch. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Rick.
And to everyone tuning in, thank you for joining us on the Insider's Guide to Custom Homes. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, and leave a review to help others discover the show. You can catch all of our past episodes, transcripts, and show notes at tigtech.com. That's TIGTCH.com. I'm Rick Bell, and this has been another episode of the Insider's Guide to Custom Homes. Thank you for listening, and remember, let's build your masterpiece the Landmark way. Stay tuned and enjoy the journey.